Tom walked along the quiet country road, carrying a small bag over his shoulder. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the fields. For many years, Tom had lived as a traveler, moving from town to town, never staying in one place for too long. People often called him a cowboy, not because he rode famous horses or worked on big ranches, but because he lived with a simple hat, worn boots, and a quiet, wandering spirit. Life had been hard for him, but he carried it with patience and kindness. That morning, Tom had received a letter from a lawyer. He opened it slowly, reading the words again and again. His heart beat faster as he discovered that his grandmother had passed away and left her ranch to him. He had not seen the place for many years, not since he was a young boy living with her for a while. He remembered it as a place full of warmth, with open fields, tall trees, and the soft sound of wind moving through the grass. He remembered how safe he felt there, how his grandmother's smile could make him forget all the sadness in the world. After a few days of preparation, Tom finally began his journey. The road stretched long and quiet, passing by fields of green and small forests. He walked steadily, thinking about what he would find when he reached the ranch. He wondered if the old house would still look the same, if the barn would still stand, and if the land would remember the footsteps of those who had lived there before him. When Tom reached the ranch, he stopped for a moment at the gate. The metal gate creaked slightly as he pushed it open. The house looked older than he remembered, with paint faded by years of sun and wind. The roof had a few missing shingles, but it still held strong. The fences were leaning slightly, but the fields beyond still looked peaceful. The land seemed to stretch endlessly, as if it had waited patiently for him to return. Tom stepped inside the house, feeling the familiar smell of old wood and earth. The living room was quiet. Dust covered the furniture, and the curtains hung heavy over the windows. On the walls, pictures of his grandmother smiled down at him, frozen in time. He ran his fingers along the frames, remembering the stories she used to tell him. The kitchen had the old wooden table, worn from years of use, and the pans still hung above the stove. Even the small bedroom in the back had the quilt his grandmother had made. Everything felt like a memory waiting to be touched. He walked slowly from room to room, exploring the house carefully. Every corner held a story. Every step reminded him of laughter, meals, and quiet evenings by the fire. His heart ached with sadness, but it also felt warm with the comfort of returning to a place he had once called home. After spending some time inside, Tom went outside to explore the ranch. The barn stood quietly, its wooden walls faded and covered in dust. The stable had no horses anymore, and the hay had settled into thick layers over time. The windmill at the edge of the field clicked softly in the breeze, adding a gentle rhythm to the stillness around him. Everything looked peaceful but lonely, waiting for life to return. As Tom wandered around, he noticed a small wooden door near the side of the barn. He had forgotten about it entirely. The door led down to a cellar beneath the barn, a place he had played near as a child but had never explored fully. The lock on the door looked newer than the rest of the building, which made Tom pause. It was strange because his grandmother had never mentioned anything stored down there. Curiosity pushed him forward. He bent down and pulled the lock. To his surprise, it opened. He pushed the heavy wooden door, and a cool air rushed out. The cellar smelled of earth and wood, carrying a strange, quiet weight. Tom stepped down carefully, his boots making soft thuds on the wooden stairs. In his hand, he carried a small lantern he found near the steps. Its light flickered across the walls, casting long shadows that danced as he moved. As the light spread across the cellar, Tom froze. In front of him were several wooden crates stacked neatly. Each crate had a strange mark carved on it, a small circle with 3 short lines around it. The same mark repeated on every crate. Tom had never seen anything like it. His grandmother had never spoken of anything hidden or secret. He touched one of the crates carefully. It felt heavy, much heavier than he expected. He tried to lift the lid, but it would not budge. The wood was solid, and the lock seemed strong, almost as if it had been waiting for someone like him to arrive. He stepped back, taking a deep breath. The cellar was silent, except for the soft creak of the old stairs and the quiet hum of the wind moving through the barn. Then, from a far corner of the room, he heard a metallic sound. It was faint but distinct. Tom tightened his grip on the lantern and pointed the light toward the sound. His eyes widened as he saw what was there. It was something he had never expected to find beneath his grandmother's ranch. The object was partially hidden under a cloth, but its shape suggested it was old and carefully preserved. Tom's heart raced. He had always thought of his grandmother as a simple, kind woman. She cooked meals, tended to the garden, and told bedtime stories. He never imagined that she might have kept something mysterious hidden here all these years. His mind raced with questions. What was it? Why had she hidden it? And what did she want him to find? Tom approached slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. His lantern light danced across the walls, illuminating the crates and the covered object. The air smelled of earth and time, thick with the weight of secrets. He reached out with trembling hands and lifted the cloth. Beneath it lay a chest, made of dark wood with strange carvings along its edges. The carvings matched the marks on the crates, the same circle with 3 lines around it. The chest was large, almost as tall as Tom's knees, and it had a lock unlike any he had seen before. Tom studied it carefully. He had no idea what might be inside. Gold, old documents, tools, or something far stranger. His grandmother had been a woman of many talents, but she had never spoken of anything unusual. He remembered the stories she used to tell him about courage, honesty, and the importance of family. Perhaps this was her way of teaching him one last lesson. He tried the lock on the chest. It would not open. He shook it lightly, but it was too strong. The curiosity inside him grew. He looked around the cellar for anything that could help. Old tools were scattered across a shelf, but none seemed right. He sighed, realizing he would need more time. Whatever was inside, it was meant to be discovered carefully. Tom stepped back and looked at the entire cellar. The crates, the chest, and the faint metallic sound in the corner made him feel both excitement and fear. This was no ordinary inheritance. It was a secret, hidden for years, waiting for him to return. He could feel the weight of history in the air, the presence of his grandmother watching silently through the memories of the ranch. As the sun set outside, the lantern cast a warm glow across the cellar. Tom sat on a wooden crate, thinking. He felt a connection to the land, to the house, and to the woman who had raised him. This ranch was more than just land or a building. It was a bridge to his past and, perhaps, a guide to his future. He knew that tomorrow he would begin to uncover the secrets hidden in the cellar. But for tonight, he allowed himself a moment of quiet. He felt the wind moving through the barn, carrying the sound of time and memory. He felt hope stirring in his chest. The ranch was his, and now it was time to discover what his grandmother had left behind. And as Tom looked around the cellar one last time before leaving, he realized that his life, the life of a wandering cowboy, was about to change forever. The next morning, Tom woke up early to the soft sound of wind moving through the trees. The ranch was quiet, almost as if it were holding its breath. He had spent the night thinking about the cellar, the crates, and the strange chest with the marks on it. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. Today, he decided, he would explore further. Tom ate a simple breakfast in the kitchen, just bread and eggs. He poured coffee into a chipped mug and looked out the window. The fields stretched far and wide, bathed in golden sunlight. The barn looked different in the morning light. It was less intimidating and more inviting, as if it were welcoming him to uncover its secrets. With a deep breath, Tom grabbed the lantern and made his way to the barn again. The wooden door to the cellar creaked as he opened it. The cool, earthy air rose to meet him. He stepped down the stairs slowly, careful not to trip on the uneven steps. The lantern light showed the crates in neat stacks, and the chest sat covered in the corner. Tom's heart beat faster. The metallic sound he had heard yesterday seemed louder now, but he could not see its source clearly. He decided to investigate the crates first. He approached the nearest crate and examined the strange mark carved on it. The circle with 3 lines around it looked like some kind of symbol, but he did not know its meaning. Carefully, he tried to lift the lid. It would not move. Tom looked around and found an old crowbar leaning against the wall. He picked it up and gently pried the lid open. The wood resisted at first but gave way slowly. Inside the crate were rows of glass jars. Each jar was filled with a yellowish liquid. Floating inside were small objects wrapped in cloths. Tom picked up one jar and held it to the light. He could see tiny, delicate items, almost like pieces of old tools or jewelry. Some looked like keys, others like carved stones. He wondered why his grandmother would hide such things. None of these objects looked valuable in a typical sense, but there was something mysterious about them. He carefully placed the jar back and opened another crate. This one held old documents tied with string. The papers were yellow and fragile. He handled them with care, afraid they might crumble. Tom read the first document slowly. It was a journal, written in neat handwriting. He recognized his grandmother's style immediately. The journal spoke of her life on the ranch, the animals she raised, and the days she spent teaching him lessons. But then the entries became stranger. They spoke of hidden treasures, of protecting something important, and of messages that could only be understood by someone who truly cared for the land. Tom felt a chill run through him. This was not just a collection of objects. This was a secret, a story left for him to find. As he read, he heard the metallic sound again. This time it was closer. He looked around, shining the lantern toward the sound. In the far corner, partially hidden behind the chest, he saw a small box. The metal of the box glimmered in the lantern light. Tom walked over and picked it up. It was surprisingly light, and when he opened it, he found several old coins. They were not ordinary coins. Each one had strange symbols and patterns on it, like nothing Tom had seen before. He traced the patterns with his fingers, feeling a connection to something old and powerful. He realized that his grandmother had been protecting these objects for a reason. Tom stacked the crates neatly to make room around the chest. It seemed larger than the other items, more important somehow. He approached it carefully and touched the carved symbols. They were smooth from years of handling. The lock was intricate, with a combination of numbers and lines that he could not figure out. He sighed, feeling both excitement and frustration. There was no immediate way to open it. He would need time to understand its secrets. He decided to explore the rest of the cellar first. There were old tools, buckets, and shelves lined with jars. Some jars held seeds, some held dried herbs. Everything was labeled in his grandmother's handwriting. Tom realized that she had been preparing for more than just daily life. She had been preparing for something hidden, something important that she trusted only him to discover. He felt a wave of respect and love for her, realizing how much thought she had put into this secret world beneath the barn. Hours passed as Tom examined every crate and shelf. He catalogued the jars, the coins, and the papers. Each object seemed ordinary at first, but as he studied them, he felt they were part of a larger puzzle. His grandmother had left a trail for him, one that would take time and patience to follow. Tom realized that he had been given not just a ranch, but a responsibility. He was the keeper of her secrets now. Near the end of the day, Tom sat on a crate, resting. He held one of the coins in his hand, turning it over slowly. The patterns seemed to tell a story, one that he could almost understand but not fully. He wondered how his grandmother had learned about these objects and why she had kept them hidden for so long. The thought made him feel connected to her in a deeper way. It was as if she had known he would return one day and had prepared this discovery just for him. Suddenly, he noticed a small trapdoor in the floor of the cellar, almost hidden by a rug. His heart jumped. He had not seen it yesterday. He knelt down and lifted the trapdoor. Underneath was a narrow staircase leading further down into darkness. Tom hesitated. The lantern light would only reach so far, and he had no idea what lay below. But curiosity and a sense of duty pushed him forward. He climbed down carefully, holding the lantern above him. The stairs creaked but held firm. At the bottom he found another room, smaller but filled with more crates and shelves. The metallic sound was louder here. Tom approached it carefully. On a shelf, he saw an old tin box that rattled slightly when he moved it. He opened the box and found more coins, similar to the ones he had discovered above. But there was something else, too, a small key, old but polished, with a symbol carved on the handle that matched the marks on the crates above. Tom's heart raced. This key must belong to the chest. He rushed back upstairs, careful not to drop the lantern or the coins he was holding. Back at the chest, he examined the lock again. He realized that the key fit perfectly. With a deep breath, he inserted it and turned slowly. The lock clicked. Tom lifted the lid. Inside, he found a collection of objects unlike anything he had imagined. Old maps, more coins, small tools, and a leather-bound book filled the chest. Everything was arranged neatly, as if his grandmother had been waiting for him to find it. He picked up the leather book and opened it. The pages were filled with sketches and notes about the ranch, the surrounding land, and the objects she had collected. There were instructions on how to care for the ranch, protect the objects, and use them wisely. Tom realized that his grandmother had left him not only a ranch but a legacy. She had trusted him to continue her work, to understand the land, and to guard the secrets hidden within it. Tom sat back, overwhelmed but determined. He understood now that his life was changing. The ranch was no longer just a place to live. It was a place of discovery, of history, and of responsibility. He looked around the cellar, feeling a connection to his grandmother stronger than ever. The wind outside whispered through the barn, as if carrying her voice, telling him he was ready for this journey. For the first time in many years, Tom felt at home. The wandering days, the lonely nights, and the uncertainty of life seemed to fade. Here, on his grandmother's ranch, he had a purpose, and whatever mysteries remained, he was ready to uncover them, one by one. Tom spent the night thinking about the chest and its contents. The leather-bound book, the old coins, and the maps had captured his imagination completely. He could not stop thinking about what his grandmother had kept hidden all these years. She had been more than just a kind woman who raised him. She had been a guardian of secrets, a protector of something important, and now he was entrusted with her legacy. The next morning he returned to the cellar with a fresh lantern and a notebook. The air smelled of earth and wood, familiar but mysterious. Tom carefully opened the chest again. He lifted the maps out, spreading them on a wooden crate. They were old and fragile, edges yellowed with age. The maps showed not only the ranch but also the surrounding land, rivers, and hills. Some parts were marked with the same symbol he had seen on the crates and coins. The symbols seemed to point to hidden places, but their meaning was unclear. Tom traced the lines with his finger. One path led into a small forest at the edge of the ranch. Another path led to a hill beyond the river. He realized that the maps were more than just directions. They were a guide, a trail of secrets meant to be followed carefully. The leather book contained notes explaining the maps in his grandmother's handwriting. She had written about hidden wells, secret storage, and special spots where she had left items of importance. Each location had a purpose, and Tom understood that he would need to follow them to discover the full story. He decided to start with the forest near the ranch. He packed the coins, the maps, and the leather book carefully in his bag. He took his old hat and walked toward the edge of the property. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the fields. Birds sang in the trees, and the wind carried the scent of grass and earth. The forest was quiet, almost as if it were waiting for him. Tom felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had no idea what he would find, but he trusted his grandmother's guidance. As he entered the forest, the light changed. The tall trees created shadows on the ground, and the air grew cooler. Tom moved slowly, following the path indicated on the map. The forest floor was soft under his boots, covered in leaves and small twigs. He noticed unusual markings on the trees. Some were scratches in the bark, forming small patterns. Others were small symbols carved carefully into the wood. Tom recognized them immediately. They matched the symbols he had seen on the crates, coins, and maps. His grandmother had marked the path, ensuring he would not get lost. After walking for some time, Tom reached a small clearing. In the center was a large stone, partially covered in moss. He remembered a note in the leather book about a stone that guards the treasure. He knelt down, brushing away the moss. Beneath the stone was a small wooden box. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were more coins, similar to those in the chest, and a small silver key with the same symbol carved on it. Tom realized that this key might open another chest or box somewhere else on the ranch. His grandmother had hidden it here to keep it safe until he returned. Tom continued to follow the path deeper into the forest. He found several other small markers and hidden boxes along the way. Each discovery felt like a message from his grandmother, guiding him and teaching him patience. The forest seemed alive, as if it recognized him as the rightful heir to the land. He felt a sense of connection with every step he took. The quiet sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, distant bird calls, and flowing water made him feel calm and focused. Eventually, the path led him to a small stream. The map showed a hill beyond the stream with another hidden spot. Tom carefully crossed the water, using the stepping stones his grandmother had marked on the map. On the other side, he climbed the hill slowly. The view from the top was breathtaking. He could see the ranch, the barn, the forest, and the winding river that flowed through the land. The hill seemed ordinary, but the map suggested otherwise. At the top, he found a shallow depression in the ground, barely noticeable. The leather book had a note describing a well of secrets hidden under a small mound. Tom knelt and dug carefully with his hands. After a few minutes, he uncovered a small metal trap. It was old but solid. The silver key he had found in the forest fit perfectly into the lock. He turned it, and the trapdoor opened with a quiet click. Below was a small underground chamber. Inside, there were more crates and boxes. Some were filled with tools, others with coins and small objects like those in the cellar. There were also letters and journals from his grandmother, detailing her life, her discoveries, and her plans for the ranch. Tom realized that she had been collecting and protecting these items for decades, ensuring that they would only be found by someone who cared for the land and its history. As he explored the chamber, Tom found a special journal with his name written on the cover. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside, his grandmother had written about him, her memories, and her hopes. She explained why she had hidden the objects, the meaning of the symbols, and the importance of preserving the ranch and its secrets. She encouraged him to continue her work, to protect the land, and to uncover the mysteries she had left behind. Tom spent hours reading the journal. He learned that his grandmother had been part of a long line of guardians. Each generation had hidden objects, maps, and tools to protect the ranch and teach the next heir important lessons. She had trusted him to continue this legacy. The feeling of responsibility weighed on him, but it also filled him with pride. He understood now that the ranch was not just land or property. It was a place of history, knowledge, and hidden treasures that held lessons about life, patience, and courage. When Tom finally emerged from the underground chamber, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. He looked around the ranch, the forest, and the hills. Everything seemed different now. The land was no longer just a place to live. It was a story, a puzzle, and a guide. He felt a deep connection to his grandmother and to the generations before him who had protected this place. He returned to the cellar with the journals, maps, coins, and keys. He carefully organized everything, making notes in his own notebook. He realized that the cellar was more than a storage space. It was a library of secrets, a place where history and mystery met. Each crate, each coin, and each map was a message, waiting for him to understand. As night fell, Tom lit a small lamp in the cellar and sat among the crates. The discoveries of the day weighed on him, but they also filled him with determination. He knew that his journey had only just begun. There were more secrets to uncover, more paths to follow, and more lessons to learn. But for the first time in his life, Tom felt that he had a purpose. The wandering days were behind him, and a new chapter was beginning. The wind whispered through the barn, carrying the sound of leaves and distant streams. Tom listened carefully, feeling that his grandmother's spirit was near, guiding him, encouraging him, and trusting him to continue her work. He held the journal close and looked at the maps once more. Tomorrow, he would follow the next path, uncover the next secret, and continue the journey she had prepared for him. End in that quiet cellar. Surrounded by the treasures and secrets of the past, Tom felt a deep sense of belonging. The ranch was no longer just a piece of land. It was a living story, and he was its newest chapter. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the old ranch house, filling the rooms with warm light. Tom woke early, full of energy and curiosity. He had spent the previous days exploring the cellar, the forest, and the hidden chambers beneath the hill. Each discovery had deepened the mystery of his grandmother's life and the legacy she had left him. Today he felt that he was ready for something bigger, something that would explain why his grandmother had hidden so many treasures and secrets. Tom grabbed the leather-bound book, his notebook, and a small bag with the keys and coins he had found. He went directly to the cellar, careful not to disturb the crates and boxes he had already examined. The lantern in his hand cast a steady light across the room, illuminating the rows of crates, the chest, and the trapdoor to the underground chamber. Tom had been thinking about the maps and the symbols carved on the crates and coins. He believed that they were more than just markers. They were instructions, guiding him to the next discovery. He studied the maps carefully, spreading them out on the top of a crate. One of the symbols, a circle with 3 lines, matched a series of markings on the floorboards of the cellar. Tom knelt down and examined the boards closely. After careful inspection, he realized that one of the boards was slightly different from the others. It looked newer and fit tightly into the surrounding floor. He pressed on it gently, and to his surprise, the board shifted slightly, revealing a small keyhole underneath. Tom's heart raced as he realized that the silver key he had found in the forest might fit here. He inserted the key into the lock and turned it slowly. The lock clicked, and the board lifted, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Tom took a deep breath, adjusted his lantern, and carefully stepped down. The air was cooler and carried a faint scent of earth and metal. He felt excitement and nervousness, knowing that this could be the most important discovery yet. As he reached the bottom, he found himself in a small stone chamber. Unlike anything he had seen before, the walls were lined with stone shelves carved directly from the rock. On the shelves were rows of small chests, jars, and boxes, each marked with the familiar circle and 3 lines. Tom walked slowly among them, examining each item. Some were filled with coins, like those he had already found. Others contained small tools, carved stones, and objects that seemed ordinary at first but felt significant in their arrangement. It was clear that his grandmother had spent a lifetime collecting, organizing, and protecting these treasures. Each object had meaning, and each symbol was part of a code only someone who truly understood could follow. In the far corner of the chamber, Tom noticed a larger chest, different from the others. It was made of dark wood, reinforced with iron, and covered in intricate carvings. The same circle and line symbol appeared repeatedly along its edges. Unlike the other chests, this one had no keyhole. Instead, there was a small carved pattern that looked like a combination lock, with movable rings around it. Tom examined it closely and compared it with the notes in the leather-bound book. His grandmother had written about a final treasure, something that must be opened only after understanding all the other objects and symbols. He realized that this chest was the most important secret she had left for him. Tom spent hours studying the carvings, comparing them to the symbols in the book, the coins, and the maps. He noticed a pattern, a sequence of numbers and lines hidden within the carvings. Slowly, carefully, he turned the rings to match the pattern he had discovered. Each movement felt deliberate, as if the chest were testing his patience and intelligence. Finally, with a quiet click, the lid shifted slightly, revealing a small gap. Tom's hands trembled with anticipation as he lifted it. Inside the chest was a collection of extraordinary items. There were gold coins, sparkling gemstones, and finely crafted tools. But the most striking item was a small, ornate box made of silver, engraved with the same symbols that had appeared everywhere else. Tom opened the box carefully. Inside was a folded letter, written in his grandmother's handwriting. He unfolded it slowly, his eyes scanning the familiar script. The letter explained everything. His grandmother wrote about a secret inheritance that had been passed down through generations. The symbols, the coins, the maps, and the hidden chambers were all part of a system to protect the ranch and its treasures from those who did not understand its value. The objects were not just wealth, they were tools and lessons meant to teach patience, courage, and wisdom. She had chosen Tom because she trusted him to continue the legacy and protect the land she loved. Tom felt a surge of emotion as he read the letter. He remembered the stories she had told him as a child, the lessons about honesty, hard work, and respect for the land. Everything now made sense. The wandering years, the lonely nights, and the uncertainty of his life had led him here, to the ranch, to this responsibility. He realized that the greatest treasure was not the coins or gemstones, but the knowledge, guidance, and trust his grandmother had left him. After reading the letter, Tom carefully examined the other items in the chest. There were maps leading to further hidden spots on the ranch, small tools for work he had never seen before, and journals detailing the history of the land. Each item had a purpose, and each symbol provided instructions. Tom felt a sense of awe. His grandmother had prepared for him a lifetime of discovery, and now it was his turn to continue the work. He spent the rest of the day organizing the chamber. He arranged the chests, jars, and tools according to the symbols and instructions in the book. He made notes in his own notebook, recording the locations, patterns, and meanings. The work was meticulous and required careful attention, but Tom found it rewarding. Each discovery felt like a conversation with his grandmother, a connection across time that gave him guidance and comfort. As evening approached, Tom lit a small lamp in the chamber. The soft light reflected off the coins and gemstones, casting a warm glow across the stone walls. He sat on a crate, holding the silver box and the letter, thinking about everything he had learned. He understood that his life had changed forever. The ranch was no longer just land, it was a living story, a collection of secrets, and a place of learning. His wandering days were over. Now he had purpose, responsibility, and a connection to a legacy that stretched back generations. Tom knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. The maps indicated further hidden spots, and the journals contained instructions for tasks he had never attempted. But he was ready. He had the knowledge, the tools, and the determination to continue. He felt his grandmother's presence around him, guiding him and encouraging him. The ranch, the cellar, the hidden chambers, and the treasures were all part of a journey that he would carry forward. Before leaving the chamber, Tom took one last look around. The chests, coins, jars, and tools were arranged neatly, each with its own place. The secrets of the past were preserved, and now it was his responsibility to protect them. He closed the lid of the silver box carefully and placed it back in the chest. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The discovery of the hidden vault had changed everything. It was a moment of connection, understanding, and preparation for the future. As he climbed the staircase back to the cellar, Tom felt a renewed sense of energy and purpose. The wind outside carried the sounds of the ranch, the soft creak of the barn, the distant river, and the rustle of leaves. He realized that this land was alive, filled with stories, secrets, and lessons waiting to be discovered, and he was now a part of it. Entrusted with the greatest responsibility he had ever held, Tom returned to the house as the sun dipped below the horizon. The sky was painted with colors of orange and pink, reflecting on the fields and the barn. He paused for a moment, looking at the ranch and the forest beyond. Everything felt different now. The land was not just a place to live, it was a legacy to protect, a story to continue, and a mystery to explore. He felt proud, determined, and ready for whatever came next. Sitting in the quiet of the house, Tom thought about the journey ahead. The chest, the maps, the journals, and the silver box were only the beginning. The ranch held more secrets, more challenges, and more lessons. But he was no longer a wandering cowboy without a home. He was the guardian of his grandmother's legacy, the protector of the land, and the keeper of the secrets hidden beneath it. And he knew that his adventure had only just begun. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the fields and the barn. Tom woke early, eager to continue his exploration of the land and the secrets his grandmother had left behind. The discoveries of the past days had filled him with awe and purpose. He had found hidden chambers, secret keys, coins, and journals. But he knew that there was more to uncover. Today, he felt, would reveal the greatest secret of all. Tom packed the silver box, the journals, the maps, and his notebook. He carried them carefully to the cellar, where the chest and crates were arranged neatly. The air smelled of earth and wood, comforting yet mysterious. The lantern light reflected off the coins and gemstones, casting a soft glow across the walls. Tom felt a sense of anticipation, as if the cellar itself knew that something important was about to happen. He approached the chest that had held the silver box. The journals indicated that there was one final discovery hidden beneath the floor of the cellar. Tom examined the floorboards carefully, tracing the symbols with his fingers. One board near the back of the room seemed slightly different, and he pressed it gently. To his surprise, it moved, revealing a small latch underneath. He opened the latch and found a narrow passage leading deeper underground. Tom adjusted the lantern and climbed down carefully. The air grew cooler and heavier as he descended at the bottom. He entered a stone chamber that was larger than any he had seen before. The walls were lined with shelves, chests, and jars, each marked with a familiar circle and 3 lines. But in the center of the room was a large stone pedestal. On top of it lay a small wooden box, unlike any other he had found. The box was polished, with carvings of symbols that matched those on the coins and the silver box. Tom approached it slowly, feeling the weight of history in the air. His grandmother had left this for him, and he realized that it was meant to reveal her final secret. Tom opened the wooden box carefully. Inside was a folded piece of parchment and a small key. The parchment was delicate, and the handwriting was unmistakably his grandmother's. He unfolded it and read slowly. The letter explained that the final secret of the ranch was a hidden cellar beneath the hill behind the barn. This cellar held not just objects and coins, but the history of the family, the land, and the knowledge his grandmother had gathered over her lifetime. The key was meant to unlock the door to this hidden place. Tom's heart raced. He carefully folded the parchment and placed it back in the box. He took the key and climbed the staircase back to the main cellar. He then grabbed the map that showed the hill behind the barn. According to the map, the entrance to the hidden cellar was concealed beneath a layer of rocks and grass. Tom walked across the fields, feeling the soft wind against his face. The barn stood quietly behind him, and the forest stretched to one side. Everything seemed calm, but he could feel the anticipation building dotted the hill. Tom examined the ground carefully. He noticed slight markings that matched the symbols on the map. With careful hands, he began moving rocks and grass, revealing a small stone door embedded in the earth. The silver key fit perfectly into the lock. He turned it slowly, holding his breath, and heard a click as the door opened. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. Tom lit the lantern and stepped down cautiously. The hidden cellar was remarkable. The walls were lined with carved shelves filled with journals, coins, and tools. But there were also paintings, sketches, and letters detailing the family's history and the life of his grandmother. It was a treasure not of gold alone, but of knowledge, stories, and memories preserved carefully over generations. Tom realized that his grandmother had dedicated her life to protecting the legacy of the ranch, ensuring that it would be preserved for someone who truly understood its value. He explored the shelves carefully, taking notes and examining the items. There were journals describing the animals raised on the ranch, the land's changes over the years, and detailed observations about the forest, river, and hills. Each journal was written with care, offering lessons about patience, observation, and respect for the land. Tom felt a deep connection to his grandmother, as if she were guiding him from beyond. He realized that the ranch was more than property. It was a teacher, a guide, and a story waiting to be understood. In the center of the cellar, Tom found a large book bound in leather. He opened it and discovered it was a diary spanning decades. His grandmother had written about her experiences, the challenges she faced, and the secrets she kept hidden. She had carefully documented each object in the cellar, explaining its purpose and meaning. The book included stories of courage, kindness, and the importance of protecting the land. As Tom read, he felt as though his grandmother was speaking directly to him, teaching him lessons that would guide his life. Among the journals and books, Tom also found letters addressed to him. They were written over many years, though he had never received them until now. In the letters, his grandmother shared memories of her childhood, her love for the ranch, and her hopes for him. She encouraged him to continue her work, protect the land, and uncover the secrets she had hidden. The letters were filled with warmth and wisdom, and Tom felt tears in his eyes as he read them. He understood now that the ranch was a legacy, a responsibility, and a gift. Tom spent hours in the hidden cellar, organizing the journals, coins, and tools. He recorded his own notes, documenting what he had found and what he had learned. Each object, each map, and each symbol told a story. He realized that the greatest lesson his grandmother had left was the importance of understanding, patience, and care. The wealth she had hidden was not merely for personal gain. It was a test of character, a way to ensure that the land and its history would be respected and preserved. As the sun began to set, Tom climbed back to the surface. The sky was painted with shades of orange and gold, reflecting on the fields and the barn. He stood for a moment, looking at the land he now owned and protected. Everything felt different. The ranch was alive with history, secrets, and purpose. He felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility. He knew that he had a role to play in preserving the legacy of his grandmother and the generations that came before her back in the main house. Tom carefully stored the items he had collected. He placed the journals, maps, and letters in a safe place. The silver box and the coins were organized, ready to be studied further. The ranch had become more than a home. It was now a living museum, a library of history, and a guide for the future. Tom understood that his journey was just beginning. There were still paths to explore, secrets to uncover, and lessons to learn. But he was ready for it, with the knowledge, tools, and guidance his grandmother had left him. Tom sat by the window, watching the last light of day fade over the fields. He thought about his grandmother, her wisdom, and the trust she had placed in him. He realized that he was no longer just a wandering cowboy. He was the guardian of a legacy, the protector of the ranch, and the keeper of its secrets. The adventure he had longed for was not in faraway towns or distant lands. It was here, in the home he had returned to, in the stories and treasures of the past. As night fell, the ranch was quiet once more. The wind moved softly through the trees, carrying the sounds of the barn, the forest, and the river. Tom felt at peace. He had discovered the greatest secret of all: not the coins, not the objects, but the connection to his family, the land, and the life his grandmother had cherished. He understood that his role was not only to protect the ranch, but to honor it, live on it, and continue the legacy for the future. Tom closed the journals and maps, turning off the lantern. The cellar was quiet, filled with the history and secrets of generations. He walked back to the house, feeling a sense of completion and purpose. The ranch was his home, his responsibility, and his treasure. He knew that life would continue to offer challenges and discoveries, but he was ready. The legacy of his grandmother would guide him, and he would carry it forward with care, courage, and respect. And as Tom lay down to rest that night, he felt a sense of belonging he had never known before. The ranch, the land, the hidden chambers, and the treasures were no longer mysteries. They were part of his life. He had returned home, found the secrets his grandmother had left, and embraced the responsibility of the legacy. His life had changed forever, and he knew that the story of the ranch would continue through him.